now new meeting. So if I copy that, I'll WhatsApp it to you, and we'll try one more time. But I could see you were doing everything right. You were trying to get in, and I had no button to press to let you in. So I feel like it might do it again, but let's try. Yep, I'll keep you on just a minute. You're in! Yay!
Yes,
We're in!
we're in, Kelly. We're on.
Wonderful. Right.
Good.
Okay, let me turn that down a little bit so it's not echoing. So does it sound clear enough to you?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just keep it natural. We won't need to edit, and we'll give it
Okay.
another shot, and we'll see
Okay.
how it goes.
Cool.
Okay. All right. The
Go
video's
for
going to
it.
be slightly different, but that's fine.
Okay.
I might have to turn you up a little bit more though, so hopefully it doesn't echo
Okay.
too much. You sure I'm not sounding like a robot?
No, you sound great.
Okay, all right. Because I'll send you the video of the other one, and
Okay.
and hopefully this one won't sound like a robot, but it is a different microphone, so
Okay.
we'll see. We will
Cool.
see.
Let's see what
So
happens.
let's see what happens. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. We'll start recording from now. Hello, welcome to our very first podcast / chat with Mr. Paul Clark, who has just released his book, Woods, Words and Whimsy. As if you've got visuals, you can see on the screen, I'm setting up a bit of a photo shoot, which I think ended up getting aborted, but you can see his lovely book there in the background as a backdrop. So Paul Clark has written several collaborative projects with us. This is his first solo project, and he is a prolific writer of poetry, short stories, flash fiction, some life events and some historic work, and he dabbles in lots of different genres. And now we'll jump into the chat and see what he has to say for himself. Hello, Paul. Thank you so much for joining me a second time, because I will tell the people that are listening on the podcast or maybe viewing this that I did record this last week, and Paul was very kind to give us his time, but the recording was a little bit squiffy on my part, so hopefully the sound sounds very good on this one and it works okay. And I'm talking to Paul this week because he's got a new book out. So if you can see visuals, I'm holding it up on my screen, which is Words, Woods and Whimsy by Paul Clark. And he's kindly joined us today to answer a few questions that some of his writing cohort have put to him, and tell us a little bit more sort of about himself. So Paul, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Kelly. It's good to talk to you again.
Again, yeah, thank you so much. Very generous with your time. So yeah, talk to us. I know last week I was asking you a little bit about yourself. I know people are going to be interested in what jobs you've done or what you're doing and how you got into writing. So yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
So that first question, Kelly, how I got into writing, well, apparently, I was a very keen writer when I was growing up in a Hertfordshire village. I'm hoping to look through my old family home to try and find those little stories that I wrote. So
yeah,
when the 50 years on that, I think that's going to be quite interesting. The next kind of writing station on my journey, I guess, would be when I was at university doing a maths degree up in Manchester. Now, I wasn't that happy up there, really. I think it was a bit, with hindsight, I probably should have had a year out, but I made some really good friends up there, and I learned a lot about myself and the world. And I actually wrote quite a lot of poems as well. I found probably about 20 or so written on the old writing paper, that blue writing paper. And I remembered last week that I'd actually written it on a very, very basic typewriter. where you had this machine and you like a semicircular dial, and you typed one letter at a time.
Oh,
So I'm hoping to find that machine at some point. So
that'd be amazing.
it is actually it
Mm.
is amazing, and of course the next fast forward many years till about, I think it's 5 years ago, where I was teaching functional skills at North Harts College in Stevenage, and one Tuesday evening, I think it was, I saw a sign on the wall, creative writing course. So I thought that was great. I'll have a go at that, and attended the following week, met Kelly and the other members of the cohort, and we've kept in touch ever since, which has been great.
Yeah.
And I believe, and I'm sure Kelly's going to bear me out here, that she thought I was a plant, like a spy sent by the college management, which to see how her writing class was going. And
Yeah.
we laugh at that on a regular basis now. But it does make for a very interesting story. And of course, I just got intrigued by all the genres that you could have. You could write, and well, I'm sure Kelly will probably elaborate in a minute or two about my nickname, the Magpie. I just love collecting different genres, and I think I wanted to really. I was just so excited about writing as a hobby, for your own kind of for yourself really, and learn from other people, listening to their stories. So
And here listening away to you and fascinated by what you have to say, and it is, yeah, it was really funny, the fact that yeah, it was my first year of writing for the college, which wasn't that long ago, so it's all been quite a new journey, really. 4 or 5 years we're now talking, so all very new, and you've achieved so much in that time, because with your own cohort you raised £500-600 for charity.
yeah,
You, with your book Elephant in the Room, you also then went on to do Down the Inkwell, which was a collection. You then produced Phantom Fables. Oh, and in fact, before Down the Inkwell and Phantom Fables, you did Fantastic Writers and Where to Find Them, and that was in the newspaper. So you've had three. You had a new one, didn't you? You've had 3 collaborations.
that's right.
And this is your first solo project. And
That's
I know
it.
that you've got probably about 5 solo projects already banked that you're just tinkering with and getting them in.
That's right. I mean, the one that you kindly showed to the listener, the viewers and listeners, is a lovely sized book, and it's a collection of poems, and those poems have been inspired by sometimes everyday things. There it is. Sometimes comedic acrostic verse, which I find really good, especially when I've been to open mics and I've performed quite a few of these poems, and they've been well received, so that's great.
Yeah, really hugely well received. Yeah, and
I have been working on short stories, and they seem to be kind of coming to fruition very well, actually. But I do have a couple of longer, as you said, the longer novels, which I know that I need to go back to them and do some editing, but I haven't managed to find the headspace at the moment. And because some really interesting ideas are coming around, I recently moved up to Warwickshire with my partner, to just outside Rugby, and there's so many kind of historical sites up here, and the landscape has really inspired me to write about woodlands. There's some Roman roads up here, so there's a really good history there. It's very much part of the English Civil War locations as well. The gunpowder plot was hatched not that far away from here, so in the Midlands here, there's just so much, and it's really inspired me to write, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But I can't wait to get my collection of short stories out. Hopefully, that'd be great.
Yeah, it will be great.
But yeah, it's no, so it's
Brilliant.
good. I'm quite as we discussed before. I've kind of a number of kind of dystopian novels and a steampunk novel. So it's really I find I can kind of sit down anywhere really to kind of carry on developing my ideas.
I was going to ask your writing process, Paul. What tips have you got for other listeners that are writers? How do you talked about inspiration, which is fantastic, and obviously location can be a huge inspiration. But what about tools, or how do you sit and construct things? What helps you?
I mean, quite often I can be walking along the Oxford Canal, which is 5 minutes away from here, and I might see something, or I might hear a conversation of the boaters, or just have the quiet in the bird song, and that will inspire me to write. But alternatively, I might be at work. I'm a maths teacher. I teach GCSE maths for the Warwickshire College group. I might have a conversation with a colleague in the classroom, or I might hear a bit of dialogue from people, and that might kind of be a catalyst. So I think, and what I tend to do is, when I hear this, it might be a phrase or something I see, I write it down in the notes in my phone. And then I actually go and work on it, and then I'm afraid I send it over, and Kelly does the hard work.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Well, anyway, are there particular questions you want to ask, Kelly? What? Well,
I've got some questions from some of your cohorts. So Mina's asked, where do you get your ideas, which I think you've covered, and a lot of your inspiration, which is great. I've also got here's one from Dom. From Dom.
Right.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh,
yeah.
Hard. Can I just have one?
I guess in terms of celebrity crush, we can probably manipulate this question. I just explained that Dom is actually my son, but he does go to some of the creative writing groups, and he's quite a fan of Paul's. So so I think we could probably manipulate this question from who is your celebrity crush to who would you go out to dinner with? Who would you want to sit with and learn from, and
Oh, that is so hard. That is so hard. There are so many. Oh dear me. Oh, can I give you, say, 3?
Yeah, of course.
Do they have to be living or dead?
And I think keep it open. Yeah.
Keep it open. Okay.
You don't have to kiss them at the end of the night, so it's fine.
Okay. Well, I think I'm very much as you know, into wildlife ecology and the environment. So I think I'd like to have met Rachel Carson, who really was aware of the green movement back in the 1950s, 1960s. She obviously, and if you read the book Silent Spring, it's a really it's not a thick tome, but in that book she has so many ideas about what she sees happening in the future, and that sounds quite depressing, but actually it was like a warning sign, and the passion still remains with I think the current the green thinkers.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I think that's one person I would have liked to have met. And on the other side of the coin, if you like, I'm quite into. As Kelly will probably share, I'm not a great techie, but I am interested in history and industry. So I'm very much kind of a fan of the canals and the railways. And I remember talking to my late father about those two the two modes of transport. So I got some really fond memories of that, and we spent many an hour discussing railways, canals, buildings.
Brilliant.
But he was. I mean, cricket was in his DNA. Unfortunately, it wasn't really in mine. And my one cricket story was I was on the same team as Barry Norman, who was a big film critic.
Yeah, I know Barry Norman.
And I say people might want me to Google that. And we were playing cricket on the same team, and we both went for the same ball, and he knocked me out. Only for a couple of minutes. I was okay, but and I never played cricket again. Thank you very much. Wow. I found other sports like hockey and volleyball, badminton, shooting, clay targets. So yeah, and then actually in doing volleyball, I became a coach, and being a coach, I kind of learnt some hints and tips about teaching, really, and that's what got me into teaching. So
Amazing.
I've got yeah, everything is kind of yeah, and you look back on your life and you remember these kind of connections that you made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, where was I? So yeah, sorry about that. I went on a bit on the ramble, which I love in the open air.
No, that's fine. We can see that in some of your stories. How that's what makes beautiful stories, isn't it? They take lots of twists and turns.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The other person, like from the kind of engineering kind of area, would be Ada Lovelace, who helped Charles Babbage make the Difference engine. And only recently, I think, have we realised what a big role she played. So that would be, she could tell an amazing story. I'm, as you know, I now live in Shakespeare country.
Yes.
So you can't really say that I'd love to have met William Shakespeare, of course. I recently watched a program on the television about his life, and when you realise how much upheaval there was in that time, and he left his family in Stratford, went down to London and life was hard, yet he managed to create this wonderful entertainment for us on the human condition. So that's another person. I'm going to say one more, and probably when I finish the podcast with you, I'll probably be asked I'll probably ask to kind of come do another one, because I'd probably have another 3 or 4 people to talk about.
Need to. I think
it's so hard. It's so
you're
hard.
my first podcast, aren't you, Paul? So you're the guinea pig here, and Pet has been. We've had the gremlins in the system tonight, so who knows what's going to happen. So you'll get another go.
I think as a storyteller, I think the person I would like to have met would be Tolkien.
Right.
Being inspired by the horrors of World War One, and that wonderful land. I mean, he invented the language, he invented the land, he invented people. I mean, just to be a world builder like that. And I'd like to link that to a recent find of mine, a guy called Alistair Reynolds, who writes some amazing space fiction, and it's wonderful prose. It really is. You can kind of just immerse yourself in a on a planet years and years from now, and the detail, and he really kind of talks about the realistic side of space life. It's not going to all be clean. It's going to be. It's almost like the Wild West, you know, people who are jugglers, liars, thieves, have been transported to another time, but actually they're just like Shakespeare's time. They're still people, and I think that's been a recent discovery for me as well. So,
what an interesting dinner.
Yeah, it's no, as you know, I'm a bit of a book lover, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other? So I just want to kind of. Can I just come back on that? I remember when so you had some work in your garden, and you wanted me to kind of rescue, transplant an apple tree.
Yeah.
And which I did, and it's still growing on my allotment.
Oh, that's great.
I espaliered it, and I did write a little poem, and I do recall that Don really enjoyed it. So
he loved it. Yeah.
That's that. I kind of like that, and I do like writing doggerel. I find it it can be funny, it can be serious, and it can reference the bigger picture of life, really.
Yeah, we talked a bit about doggerel last week, and for the readers, you were sort of explaining a bit about what that meant to you. Talking about the rhyming scheme of sort of the doggerel. Is there anything else you want to add?
I mean, just to kind of come back to what inspires me, and I it's Numbers Day on the 7th of February this year, and for those who can remember, a chap called Johnny Ball on the television.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, and it's a 25-year anniversary this year.
Wow.
So the college is doing like a really big push. So I've actually written quite a lot of poetry around that, and there's going to be some competitions at the college where people can get involved with.
Fantastic.
So I'm hoping to kind of read other people's work in the next week.
That'd be brilliant. If you can write a blog post, we'll put some links as well to the college.
Of course,
if any of the students listen, they can.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Numbers Day. Wow. So celebration of numbers. Yeah.
I mean, I made a recent purchase this week, Kelly, as I shared on our WhatsApp group. Can I push a book? Is that all right?
You can push a book. I'm just looking for a message as well, because Tina had a question for you. So I'm not looking down to be rude. But while you push the book, I'll find the next question. Go for it.
So basically, this is a book by James Patterson and Matt Eversman, and it's entitled The Secret Lives of Booksellers and Librarians, which is true stories of the magic of reading. It is the same James Patterson who writes amazing thriller, amazing adventure. Yeah. And I've read a couple of chapters already, and it's just so interesting about that. In the same package, I've actually got a pair of Fahrenheit 451 socks. So
wow.
a good parcel all round, I reckon.
That sounds like a great parcel all round. Yeah, definitely. In fact, that answers. I knew there was a question from Tina that she sent through on the WhatsApp, and it was, if you could have written any book, which book would it be? Which I feel like you might have answered, because you've talked about Tolkien, you've talked about the latest book. Is there any other book that you wish you'd have written that's out there?
We've been to Hay quite a few times, and
Yeah.
it's great to go and listen to writers talk about their books. And that's one of my aspirations, to actually go to a literature festival and talk about my
Yeah,
book. If people want to listen,
definitely.
But that's really hard. And whilst I do like poems and doggerel, I like to perform them. I do want to develop these novels and look at this steampunk novel, really.
Yeah.
So it takes time, and at the moment my time is somewhat limited. Coming back to your original question, I'm just trying to think about a book I would have liked to have written, and there are so many I can't even think of one, to be honest. Which is I'm afraid a bit of a get out clause there. I'm afraid.
No, not really. And I would say that if you could have written any book, it would be Woods, Words and Whimsy. We'll just do a quick of course. As your publisher, I'm going to be pushing it every day of the week.
Sorry, Mrs. Publisher.
No, that's fine. So we're starting to wrap this up now, and I know that you had some beautiful, we'll try and splice in maybe some answers from last week as well. I'm not sure how this recording is going to sound, but we're definitely going to run with it, because I know that people have been interested in hearing from you, and especially as your book's now out on sale. So I've got a last two. I know that Nicola asked, what is your biggest fear?
That's a tough one. I mean, I really feel at the moment that I'm living my best life, and I think that's what we should try and do. People say, what was the best year of your life for? I say, actually, it's now. I've got a really good job. It can be very stressful. It's satisfying, but I work with a really good team. I've got a number of people that I have connected with. I'm a keen singer. I love time on my allotment in my garden. I love travelling. I like meeting people. I like writing. So I value my health. And yeah, I want to kind of meet other writers, and if I can have a positive impact, whether it's helping people to write or whether it's about with their maths, that's fine. That's I think that's what we're here for. That's what life is all about.
Which is great.
Does that answer your question, or do I need to elaborate?
I guess if because it was biggest fears, it feels like you've answered the next question as well.
I don't think I'm afraid of anything, but I mean, clearly I'm concerned about my family and friends. That's what my fear would be. But it doesn't. But as into kind of, if you kind of bring it back to writing, I like to experiment. So I'm happy to give stuff a go and share with my creative writing group. I know that they'll give me some good feedback to help me develop those little those silver nuggets of my magpie fashion, really.
Brilliant. I agree, and it is great to share and to get feedback back, and this is why we have the groups, and it's really important. So the last one then, just to wrap up, and thank you again so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, I've stolen you 2 nights now in 2 weeks. So yeah, thank you. And as we've said, we've got more to talk about. So when as we get up and running and we get the mic set up and everything, if I can get you here, that would be a joy. So we will do some in-person events and things as well. It's just obviously geography doesn't help. But the best lesson life has taught you from Mina. What is the best?
Never give up. Keep going. Keep
Brilliant.
Going. Keep going.
What a perfect thing to finish on. And we will keep going with the podcast. Even if the sound isn't perfect, we will keep going.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul.
That's all right,
Really
Kelly.
appreciate your time.